Entitled passenger demands my first class seat. A bit of background, I'm an airline pilot, and I was commuting to my work assignment. I had purchased a full fare first class ticket to ensure I got there on time. At the time, I was living in Atlanta, but my home base was in Houston, hence the commute. Usually I could take the jump seat in the cockpit, but on this particular day, it was already occupied. Traveling as a pass rider wasn't feasible because there were no available seats in economy, and only one in first. Pass riders can be bumped for paying passengers, and getting to work was non-negotiable, so I used my credit card and bought the last remaining first-class seat. Boarding was completed and I was settled in my seat, relaxing and waiting for departure. Here are the players in this little drama: me, your narrator, the commuting pilot; EW, entitled woman; FA, flight attendant; CPT, the captain of our flight; EW, pointing imperiously, "You are in my seat, you need to move, now." Me, double checking my boarding pass. Actually, no, this is my assigned seat, so no, I won't be moving. Sorry about that. EW, voice rising, "You're just an employee, you're in my seat, move immediately." Me, politely, "Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. May I see your boarding pass, please?" EW, scoffs, "You are not entitled to see my boarding pass. I presented it when I boarded. I've been upgraded to first class, now get out of my seat." Me, remaining calm, "Ma'am, you'll need to sort this out with the flight crew. I am a paying passenger and this is my assigned seat." EW huffed and stormed off, reminding me of a particularly displeased Dolores Umbridge. She returned moments later with a flight attendant in tow. FAE, smiling professionally, "Good morning, Captain." To me, "May I see your boarding pass, sir?" Me, handing it over, "Certainly, null shows boarding pass." FA to EW after glancing at my pass, "Ma'am, this is indeed his assigned seat. He has a valid ticket for it." EW, exasperated, "Well, then just remove him. I've upgraded to first class and therefore this is now my seat." FA, maintaining composure, "Ma'am, could I please see your boarding pass?" EW, becoming increasingly agitated, "No, I already showed it when I boarded. I told you I've upgraded to first class." FA, trying to understand, "And how did you manage to upgrade to first class, ma'am?" EW, indignant, "I upgraded to first class. It's obvious I'm more important than some employee. Now get him out of my seat." At this point, someone on the crew had alerted the cockpit, and the captain himself emerged from the flight deck to address the situation. CPT, calmly addressing EW, "Ma'am, good morning, I'm Captain Miller," using a pseudonym. "I've just spoken with our gate agent and we sincerely apologize for this misunderstanding. It seems there's been a mix-up. The agent has rectified the situation with your booking and has issued a voucher for you for a future flight as a gesture of our apology. If you could please retrieve your updated boarding pass and the voucher from the gate, we can get underway." EW, a smug expression returning to her face, turns and marches back up the jetway, seemingly believing she'd won. The captain turned to the flight attendant and said, "Prepare the doors for departure." The doors were closed, and the captain returned to the cockpit. As we began to push back from the gate, I glanced out the window and saw that EW now pounding on the glass of the jet bridge, realizing she was not in fact on the plane. It was a very pleasant flight to Houston, and yes, the first class coffee was excellent. Oh, the satisfaction of watching Entitlement get a first class ticket to nowhere. If you love these epic fails, smash that like button and subscribe for more Entitled showdowns. Entitled customers racist demand fire your staff and hire white Americans only. I wasn't sure where else to share this story, but I had to get it off my chest. Names have been changed, of course. So, a little background, I'm a 28-year-old woman living in Colorado. My family and I immigrated to the United States from the former Yugoslavia, and my mother is Serbian, and my father is Montenegrin. My dad owns a small renovation business. Believe it or not, he was inspired to start it after watching the TV show Home Improvement. Although I have my own full-time job, I help out with my dad's business part-time, mainly handling office administration and payroll. My dad employs two fantastic guys, both originally from the Philippines. Recently, we had a customer book a renovation job. My dad sent his two employees to the customer's house to start the work, but they were immediately turned away at the door and told to leave. One of my dad's workers, let's call him Miguel, texted me to say the client had told them to go. Initially, I assumed the customer had changed their mind and wanted to cancel the job. However, just minutes after Miguel's text, I received a phone call from the customer. We'll call him Ken. He was furious. He started ranting about how Chinese employees had shown up at his house. They're Filipino, not Chinese, complaining that they were stealing jobs from white men. Then he actually demanded that we fire both of them, replace them with white employees, and send a white non-immigrant employee to do the job instead. At this point, I pretty much knew where this conversation was headed, but I decided to play along at least for a moment. I told him that those two Asian men, again they are Filipino, were our only employees, and that in fact our business is immigrant owned. My dad and I are immigrants from Montenegro. Ken then doubled down and demanded that we at least send a white employee. I calmly explained to him that the ethnicity of our employees is irrelevant and makes absolutely no difference to their ability to do the job. I even pointed out that my family, being European immigrants ourselves, weren't really that different from immigrants from the Philippines, China, Mexico, or anywhere else. He then launched into another tirade, accusing us of stealing jobs in Nonut, throwing in phrases like, "This is Trump's America now," and declaring that we don't deserve his business. And after letting him rant for a bit longer, I simply told him to find another company to do the work and hung up. Honestly, I was just stunned by his blatant racism and entitlement. Entitled Karen steals expectant mother parking spot and accuses me of not being entitled. This happened just yesterday at my local Loblaws grocery store here in Canada. For those unfamiliar, many grocery stores in Canada provide designated expectant mother parking spaces. These are intended for pregnant women or parents with babies and are usually located closer to the store entrance, often near the handicapped parking or the cart returns. I'm currently 7 months pregnant and was pulling into the parking lot behind a Lexus. I was planning to use one of these expectant mother spots, and wouldn't you know it, the Lexus pulled right into the space I was aiming for. I didn't think too much of it initially and just parked a few spaces further down. As I was walking towards the store entrance, the woman who had parked the Lexus looked to be in her mid-60s, noticed my very obvious baby bump and exclaimed, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't even realize," and then proceeded to laugh right in my face. Being pregnant and already dealing with heightened hormones, I probably overreacted, but I retorted, "You're clearly not that sorry since you parked in a spot you shouldn't have." This set her off. She stormed right up to me, getting uncomfortably close, and screamed, "Screw you. You're not entitled to this spot." I was completely taken aback and honestly started to cry. Not my proudest moment, but pregnancy hormones are a roller coaster. Thankfully, other shoppers nearby weren't okay with witnessing a woman yelling at and intimidating a visibly pregnant person. About 5 people immediately rushed over to defend me and give this woman a piece of their mind. They told her she was completely out of line and that I was clearly the person who was entitled to use that parking space. One gentleman who became my instant hero even called her a Karen, right to her face. Completely defeated, she huffed, got back into her Lexus and drove off. I still can't wrap my head around why she felt the need to confront me like that. Did she genuinely think that a sarcastic apology for her intentionally rude behavior would somehow make her seem less like a Karen? I wasn't even going to say anything to her in the first place. I just assumed maybe she had a baby in the car or some other reason for needing it. But nope, just pure entitlement. This story is pretty tame compared to some of the truly wild ones I've read here, but in the moment it was genuinely upsetting and a little scary. My entitled ex expected me to pay her bills and her cheating partners. After 11 years together, I discovered my girlfriend was cheating on me, and with an unemployed guy no less. I wasn't rolling in money, but I provided her with a comfortable life. I covered most of her bills, we lived in a nice place, she got regular salon treatments, we went on dates every weekend, and took a couple of vacations each year. She clearly became accustomed to this lifestyle and expected to maintain it, even after cheating on me with someone who couldn't offer her any of that. She never actually confessed to cheating. I figured it out myself. Once it became clear that I was ending the relationship, her true entitlement really surfaced. She argued that because I had family in the area and she didn't, I should be the one to move out of our place. And this is where it gets unbelievable. She insisted I should continue paying all the bills to give her and her new boyfriend a chance to get on their feet. She also demanded to keep my dogs, telling me I could only visit them if I got permission from her new man. And since they were supposedly broke, I was expected to keep paying for dog food and vet expenses. Instead of agreeing to her outrageous demands, I kicked her out and kept my dogs, rightfully so. Naturally, she was furious, and still completely convinced she was entitled to my financial support. After I evicted her from my own home, she claimed she'd been forced to quit her job because my actions had forced her to relocate. Then, she actually tried to sue me for lost wages. Unsurprisingly, that didn't go her way in court. You'd think that would be rock bottom, right? Nope, not for her. She then contacted my employer and threatened to sue them, claiming, and I quote, "Your employee's actions cost me everything." She actually tried to demand a settlement out of court for $100,000, an amount far exceeding her actual salary. Instead of giving in to her ridiculous demands, my company filed harassment charges against her. You'd think even then she'd finally understand she'd gone too far, but still no. Her next brilliant move was to start messaging every family member of mine she could find online. She told them some sob story about how I had ruined her life out of spite simply because she moved on with someone else, and that the least they could do was send her money to help her find a new place and pay her rent. When that didn't work either, she took to social media and started publicly begging for donations via her Cash App, falsely claiming it was a domestic violence situation to garner sympathy. I honestly cannot comprehend how she couldn't grasp the simple concept that any financial support I provided ended the moment she cheated on me. We weren't married, we have no children together. I supported her for years out of love and commitment, not obligation. I owe her absolutely nothing, especially not continued support for her and her new relationship to get on their feet. But to her, this basic reality seemed to be a complete and utter shock. Demanding support for the cheating partner, that's a new level of entitlement unlocked. What is the most unbelievable act of entitlement you have ever witnessed? Let me know in the comments. Mid-flight meltdown, entitled kid covets my coke, mom thinks just take it. Please excuse any errors, English isn't my native language. I recently flew back from Dubai, and unfortunately, I was seated next to the quintessential entitled mother and her wildly unruly child. Right away, I knew I was in for a long flight. I've had some truly awful experiences with children in airplane aisles in the past, so my mood was already less than stellar. The flight began peacefully enough, but it didn't take long for things to go downhill rapidly. This kid, who couldn't have been older than 5 or 6, was soon tearing up and down the aisle like he owned the place, tossing toys around and generally creating a chaotic mess. The flight attendants were clearly trying their best to manage the situation, but the mother? She just sat there, completely absorbed in her phone, scrolling away as if nothing was happening. When other passengers gave her looks or even politely complained, she'd just wave them off, saying things like, "Oh, just ignore him, he's just being a kid." About halfway through the flight, I decided I needed a pick-me-up and ordered a Coke. No sooner had the flight attendant placed the drink in front of me than this kid locked onto it like a heat-seeking missile. He started whining loudly, pointing incessantly at my drink, and just generally making a huge scene. I couldn't believe what happened next. The mother started giving me these incredibly hostile glares as if I was some kind of monster for daring to enjoy my own beverage and not immediately offering it to her precious offspring. Then she actually leaned over to me and in a voice dripping with entitlement and arrogance, she declared, "He really wants your drink, just give it to him." I was absolutely speechless. I mean, seriously? Drinks on flights are complimentary. Why not just ask the flight attendant to get one for her own child? When I politely declined her request and suggested she simply ask the flight attendant for another Coke for her son, she let out a dramatic huff, rolled her eyes with maximum theatrics, and muttered something under her breath that sounded suspiciously like an insult. Being the petty person I am, I decided to savor my Coke, taking deliberate, slow sips while pointedly putting on my headphones and blasting music, just loud enough for her to notice. Purely out of spite, I even ordered another Coke a little later. This time her kid actually tried to snatch the fresh drink right out of the flight attendant's hand. That's when the flight attendant finally had enough. She quietly but firmly told the mother that she needed to control her child's behavior. The mother huffed and puffed like she'd just run a marathon without any training. For the remainder of the flight, she continued to glare daggers at me, as if I was the one who had caused all the trouble by daring to exist and order a soft drink, while her little angel continued to cause mayhem. It truly is astonishing how some parents genuinely seem to believe that the entire world should revolve around them and their poorly behaved children. It makes you wonder, why even have kids if you can't be bothered to actually parent them properly and teach them basic manners and consideration for others? Ordering that second Coke out of spite, peak petty and honestly relatable. If you love these entitled parent fails, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Have an awesome day.